Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Eduardo Del Buey, and I'm a partner of Bettina Clark in this Introspections, which is our weekly blog and podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing an article called Becoming, which I wrote and which Bettina and I have discussed. It'll be attached to this video cast. And we have the great pleasure of having a friend of ours, Hugh Smiley, who's tuning in from Toronto and is going to help us comment on this. Hugh lives in Toronto and practices somatic mindful psychotherapy and has done so since 1982, studying with Ron Kurtz, founder of the Hakomi method. He speaks Guarani, the original language of Paraguay, is an avid flamenco singer and dancer, something I can't do anymore, and has a vision of humanity united in its diversity and prepared to welcome a new evolved order. And as a Baha'i, a religion which I got to know quite a bit about when I was in Iran, it's a very progressive, forward-looking, egalitarian religion that is really a good basis for anybody who wants to start a spiritual journey. So Bettina, I'm going to hand this over to you, and you're going to ask the first question.
Thank you very much. Hugh and I know each other for a while. We are both Hakomi practitioners, which has to do with mindfulness. I'm coach, she's a therapist, and I'm actually taking this whole thing a little bit on a different level before we dive into spirituality again, because I think it is very important to talk about becoming. You are writing about learning and unlearning, and to really understand where we are going in our own process and self-discovery. And so I came to the conclusion when I was reading this as a coach, I thought, ooh, that can be misunderstood as self-optimization, because lots of people are into this. You know, I was asked, are you a performance coach? And I said, no, I'm not. I'm an awareness coach. Big difference. So my question really about this tendency of self-optimization, Hugh, how would you see self-optimization, if you use this term, in a spiritual context? In the context of becoming.
Right. Well, it's evolutionary. And when we look at history up to the present time, we see that time is speeding up. In just a few thousand years, we've gone from basically animal consciousness to the point where we're almost becoming gods. It's just incredible. And to imagine, well, we can't really imagine 100 years from now at the speed at which things are unfolding, consciousness, science, society. We can't imagine 100 years or 1,000 years from now what will be in the human experience. But self-optimization, it's a good thing. We want to improve. We want to evolve. However, it's very tricky because there's a tremendous emphasis in the popular culture on the self, me. It's a self-centered, it can be very self-centered. It's like my awakening, my enlightenment, my pleasure, my comfort, my empowerment, my safety. It's all fine and good, but perhaps we can take the self-help, you know, from those bookstores, looking for self-help books and taking a course online, watching a podcast on self-help. How does our self help others, family, community, our nation, and all of humanity? So it's perhaps yoinking it, turning it around, and having more of an orientation towards service as a future evolutionary path. And through that consciousness of us all being one, then it will be inevitable that we will want to serve at least as much as pursue our own optimization and pleasure.
Eduardo, what's your take?
I agree to a degree. Obviously, I think self-optimization depending on whether you're talking about self-optimization to make the most out of the material world or self-optimization to make the most out of your own spirituality. I think that in order to be able to serve people, others, as Hugh said, we have to have a spiritual connection with ourselves. We have to know who we are. Our values have to come from deep within. And that is a type of self-optimization I see we do spiritually. And that's what the article is about creating an awareness of the now, using the now, which is finite and infinite. It's finite because it's a moment in time. It's infinite because that moment goes off into the universe, the moment it's over, and the next moment comes along. And becoming is what you do with the now to transform yourself in order to become a more spiritual being, in order to become more in harmony with yourself. So I agree with you to a degree, but I think we have to separate self-optimization from how to make more money, how to be more successful in business, how to be more successful in romantic love, from how to be more successful in ourselves, how to view ourselves positively and how to view ourselves as successful, because we need that to be able to share it with others. If not, we have nothing to share.
Mhm. This is relationship building on a different level, and actually on the level that is far more humane. If we connect on a level where we see the other person not in the performance and in what they have, what you accumulate in material things, but really how are we present to one another? How are we connecting on a level where we see each other really on a level of, let's say, non-judgmental? It's very hard. I mean, everybody is judgmental somehow, but this awareness of calming down the mind when you start being in this judging, and you then go back and say, okay, what is it this other person mirroring me? What is this person showing me that I get triggered, for example? Or so people can be in the process of becoming very much our masters, our teachers, and vice versa, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So that is definitely a part of growing, of self-realization, in letting other people guide us, in mirroring us back where we maybe go in the wrong direction.
You, what do you think of becoming?
Well, it's a fascinating word and concept. I break it down to being, and then coming. So I see two ways that we can be becoming. One is like a perpetual, like a fountain or a magnetic field, just bloop, bloop, bloop. We just keep emanating, becoming this. It's like a permanent, like a law of physics or something like that. And then on the other hand, it sort of implies that there's a journey coming. I'm coming. I'm going. I'm coming. And a question comes up is if there is an end, eschaton. Terence McKenna talks about the eschaton or the eschaton, which from the Greek means the final, the absolute, the maximum, the optimization of humanity. When we are, I think he goes concrescency, like really moving together, concrescence. I can't remember the exact word, but so I wonder if we are going towards some kind of an amazing fulfillment and even an end, because in another 5 billion years, this solar system, our sun, will be finished, and then there will be, as the Hindus say, a billion years of rest, and then another universe will be created. So in a way, there is a perpetual becoming, but there's also a movement towards something. So I wonder if there's something is coming towards us while we are going towards that eschaton. And some people might call that the absolute, God. Somebody that's more material minded might think, well, it's like a perfectly harmonized planetary economic system or something like that. So those are a couple of questions that come up around the word itself.
Mhm. I like that something is coming towards us. And I think what is coming towards us is the possibility, the field that opens for us to speak openly about all of this. Because if you think back a couple of hundred years, it was held by some very few people. It was secretive. We were not even allowed to read and write and so on. And so not to see what is hidden and what is behind and what is actually the truth. So there was a lot of manipulation in holding back that wisdom that is inherent to us, that wisdom that we can sense sometimes. And the more courageous we are, the more we allow this to come through us. I mean, I know this when I work with people, I sometimes say things and I say, where on earth is this coming from? And I can feel it is an incredible truth. I know we had this when Eduardo, when we recovered our relationship, knowing each other for over 30 years. And with Hugh, sometimes we speak and then something comes up. And when we are not recording, it's even freer, at least for me, I have to say, because I'm not so used to that. But there is something so authentic that we all say, I know that. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I know this when I'm reading certain books, and I can open, I don't know how many hundred books are here around me, but I can open Umberto Eco, I can open, I don't know, Csikszentmihalyi, and there's a page and I say, yes. And this is this collective wisdom that we have, and we are more and more open, and it's really coming our way that we become free to share and to talk about it, almost dinner table conversation.
Well, what I find, I keep on, but Hugh was asking, what are we becoming towards? Where are we going? I think part of the conversation the three of us are having, and that many people around the world are beginning to have, with friends, with spiritual advisors, with the people they love, in terms of opening ourselves up, is a realization that there is not one church in the world. There are 8 billion churches. Each of us is a temple. Each of us is a church. Each of us is a mosque. And each of us has a spiritual gift to give to others. And once we realize that, we begin to accept others as our equals, and we begin to dialogue because we seek greater knowledge and greater understanding, and realize that we can find most of the answers within ourselves, but that sometimes we need the stimulus of another soul to interact with ours, to stimulate something which is dormant.
Yeah.
But I don't want to cut this short, but I think we have another 2 minutes left in our video cast. So Bettina, any last words? And then Hugh?
It's such a pleasure to start this conversation. We do this for the first time, and I already feel excitement for further conversation, because we're just dabbling on the surface, and yet we have opened quite a big box. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And Hugh, it's so lovely that you could join us from Canada.
Thank you so much
have a lot to say.
Thanks for inviting me, both of you. And yeah, there's a real dynamic here. It's fresh, creative. So we're sort of in the moment. I think the now, sort of spinning a little bit and riffing like jazz. So wonderful dialogue, wonderful company, good energy, good thoughts. May there be more.
I love your thing when you said it's like jazz. It is like jazz. It's completely unrehearsed, uncoordinated, spontaneous, and riffs. Thank you very much to both of you. I think the three of us have learned something. I hope that our audience has learned something also and enjoy it. And ladies and gentlemen of the audience, if you've enjoyed this podcast and enjoyed the article, please invite your friends to subscribe. Please subscribe yourselves. We want to set this forum up as a place for you to come and feel comfortable in liberating your spiritual beliefs. So for now, thank you, Hugh. Thank you, Bettina, and ciao for now.
See you next time. Hasta la vista.